Hey there, everybody. This is Ed, and welcome back to another edition of Bagel and Booze. And after this weekend's trip to the beer store, we're going to bust out another edition of crap I found in the back of my fridge. We had to load up the beer fridge, make out some space, and I found this puppy sitting in the back of the fridge. We're going to find out if it's still good. What it is it's a bottle that was bottled in March of 2021. It's got a Best By date on it of March of 2024, so we still got another year to it. We're going to find out if, it still fits the freshness. I don't know, but we're going to find out. So, we'll see how well a 2-year-old beer stacks up. So the beer that we found in the back of the fridge, we'll go ahead and fire up the Beercam, is from Ommegang Brewery, and it is their Super Kriek. As I said, this beer was bottled in March of 2021. On the back of the label, it does say that it is good until March of 2024. I guess you can kind of see it there a little bit, right there. Best By, March of 2024. You can see bottled. It's a little tough to read, but that does say March 18th, 2021. So, I don't know. They say it's supposed to be good for 3 years. We're going to find out. This is from Ommegang. This was a limited edition release that they released out in 2021. I guess, it was limited, so I'm guessing you can't get it right now. But if you can find it, you can find it. If not, that's why, because it's a 2-year-old beer at this point. But it is a blend of two different types of Belgian beers. The first part is of it that it's listed is of a Flemish Old Bruin, aka Old Brown, and this is a style that kind of originates back in the 1600s, thereabouts, from the east side. It's a sour dark ale, and it originates from the east side of the Flemish region of Belgium, and it's also kind of known by a little bit more of a better term of Flanders Brown, and its cousin beer, which is from the western side of the region, is known as Flanders Red. The old in it it just stands to old, which refers to the nearly year-long, God, we got a tongue twister, the nearly year-long aging process that this beer undergoes. The second part of this offering from Ommegang is a Belgian Kriek ale, and Kriek translates out from Flemish into simply cherry, and it has its originations from the Seine, probably butchering it, River Valley outside of Brussels. And this type of ale was traditionally brewed with a unique local cherry, which was called the Scarbeek. Hopefully pronouncing that correctly. My Belgian's not that great. And it's an extremely sour and tart cherry. And these ales were traditionally lambic beers that were aged in oak barrels for about 12 to 18 months. And then after that, they were mixed with cherries, anywhere from whole cherries to macerated to bits and pieces of it. And then these were introduced to then re-ferment the fruit sugars. So, should be pretty interesting. I have a feeling because of these two styles, these are sour, that we're going to get a super sour beer. So we'll see how it lines up, how it goes with the taste test. But before we get into that, we got to do it. It's our The More You Know moment. So this week's The More You Know moment is going to come right to us from the brewery's name, and specifically Ommegang. Ommegang translates roughly into walking around or procession, and Ommegangs were a generic name of a medieval pageants that were held in the Low Countries areas of Belgium, Netherlands, and northern France. Brussels is probably the most, I guess, for everything I could find, it is the most famous one that exists out there. And Brussels origin of their Ommegang was found in the 14th century, and it was a procession in honor of the miracle of Notre Dame of Sablon. And this whole miracle is based on a legend story, however you want to call it, of a Beatrice Sotkins, no, butchering that name, who, according to legend, acted upon a vision from the Virgin Mary and was told to steal Antwerp's statue of the Madonna that was called Our Lady of the Little Sick. It's got some other name, but I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. But the English translation is Our Lady of the Little Sick. And she was told to bring it back to Brussels. So in 1348, she goes ahead and steals this statue, and through a miraculous set of journeys with her and her husband, they finally make their way back by rowing boat to the city of Brussels. And it is installed into this little chapel in Sablon, which was basically kind of handled out by this guild called the Grand Serment of Crossbowmen. And once the statue arrived, they basically treated it as their patron. And out of that, they promised to hold an annual procession every year. And this event has been held kind of since that time as a religious ceremony. It kind of takes a slight turn and in 1549, because for none other than the reason of the arrival of King Charles V. He was the Holy Roman Empire, so he was visiting Brussels, and they go all out and they throw a real kick-ass party. It kind of continues on, and it starts to fade out in popularity in the 18th century. Fast forward a little bit, and we get into it gets kind of recreated, re-geared around 1928, 1930, and at that point, they kind of take this pageant and they base it upon the descriptions of what was happened at that Ommegang which Charles V attended. And to this day, as it comes forward, it's now this big, huge, grand celebration that's held traditionally in around July. I think this year it's actually going to be held in June, but traditionally it's been held in July. And they have this, it's a whole grand spectacle over the course of 2 days. They have this royal court that is supposedly made up of descendants who were in attendance of the 16th century event. So that's the more you know moment, in case you want to know about Ommegang and where they got the name, because it is not a traditional name, but there you go. Let's go ahead. We'll get this beer cracked, we'll get it poured, and we'll get it set up for the taste test.
I drink and I know things.
Okay, so we got it all poured out, and as you kind of see, it sets up. It is a very nice red ruby color. Hopefully you can kind of see that on the Beercam, which is what we kind of would expect out of our cherry beer that was in there. Again, we got the kind of the brown from the Flanders brown that was in there, but it gives a nice kind of, kind of ruby brown color that's in there. Smell-wise, definitely get a whole host of cherries, flavor, fruit smell, aroma that's on there. Just that's about it. Not much. Not much of a head that sits on it. Don't know if that's because it's been sitting for 2 years, or I guess usually don't get a lot out of my lambic beers that I've had in the past. So we'll just chalk it up to that. So we'll go ahead, and as you can see, we got our goblet here. Granted, it's Miller Lite, but it's still my goblet. It's the closest thing I got for pouring out in this style. So we'll go ahead and give it a taste test. Woo. That is tart, which is what I would expect out of the two beer styles that are in there. Definitely, it's not a huge fruit profile to me. Definitely has a cherry overtone to it, but it is not pounding through. It's very smooth in that fashion. Definitely is sour. makes you pucker. Not as much puckering, on that second sip. The initial kind of taste test definitely it hit you, and it kind of clinched you up off when you first drink. Overall, it is kind of a pleasant beer. I was expecting something much, much, much more sour for the beer styles that we had coming in off of that, but I'm not getting that. There is a bit of a pucker. It is not too terrible. I guess that's a ringing endorsement for beer. Not too terrible. But I guess from a rating standpoint, you know, you know, I'll look at it probably about, I'll give it like a high three, run in the mill. Um, Nothing's jumping out at me off of it, but I'm not hating it. Um, I guess also on the flip side, not really fully loving it. You know, it's serviceable. It does the job. It works well. It 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 fits the bill for what it is. It's not pretending to be anything else. It is a Belgian beer. And I would not expect anything else but a sour on it. So, you know, as we said, we'll give it a three. You know, smack in the middle. Nothing to be ashamed of on that. You know, you know, I'm trying to figure what would kind of figure to move it up to four. It's a high three. It's almost a four. But we'll call it 3.5. So we'll split the difference and we'll call it a 3.5. So our final rating on it is a 3.5. So as you can guess, we got to figure out it's about that time. Will it chug? So it's now time to find out, will this beer chug? So as you can see, we still have a good bit of beer that's in there. We're going to go ahead, find out, do we get anything different? I'm a little worried on this one because it is sour. I don't know if we're going to be able to finish what it will do when we try to chug it, but we're going to find out. So let's get chugging. Almost. I almost got to the end of it. Couldn't quite. I'm I'm blaming the sourness on this one as to why I could not chug it. So will it chug? For me, no. The sour is what got me and kind of stopped me in my tracks. So we'll go ahead and finish this guy off and we'll see how, and I'll give my final impressions on it. So let's just finish it down the hatch. Even that, still tough. Finish out on the chug. Again, going to give it to the sourness. That's kind of preventing that from happening. So we finally met a beer I could not chug. Really didn't get much different off of that after, kind of the full blast of a glass. The sourness definitely intensifies. That's about really the only difference. Doesn't really change any rating description. Don't rate it any worse. Didn't rate it any better. But for me, just it was just a whole intense bit of sourness. So and it just it hit you right in the back of the throat. So we couldn't finish it off with a chug. So with that, I'm done. This is done. We're done. And I thank you for tuning in for another edition of Bagel and Booze. And we'll catch you later. Thanks all.